Boom, we're live. This is Tio with the Arcane Bear. I have a very special guest for the Bear family today. Bruce Lipton, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am so happy to be with you because this is an opportunity again that we get a chance to talk and offer some insights that I think the world was desperately looking for in this time of upheaval, transition. I want people to understand that chaos they see outside is necessary. It's a requirement for us to evolve, and this makes a difference because we're going from civilization A to civilization B. And the reason why we have to switch civilizations is that the current civilization is unsustainable and, in fact, has pushed us to the brink of what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. And the relevance about that is it's human behavior that is causing our own looming extinction. So a simple point is this: you cannot continue in the way we've been continuing because it's self-destructive. And there's another way to live, but then here's the issue. If you want to go from A to B, you can't just like overnight go, okay, A, B. You have to take A down and bring B up. And everyone's focusing on the coming down, but what you and I should, really are involved with, what is coming up?
Yeah.
So at the same time, it depends on your point of view. And so those people focusing on the coming down are living in fear. They're concerned about life in general and all this stuff. And it's like, no, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You should be focusing on what we're building, a brand new civilization. And so we're in transition state, and it's appropriate. So in other words, instead of looking at the world going, oh my God, it's falling apart, I'm going, thank goodness
Yeah.
it's falling apart, because if it stayed the same, we're not talking extinction in like 1,000 years. We're talking extinction within a century at this point. So it becomes very critical for us to let go of the old and begin the new.
Yes, absolutely. We're very big fans of disruptive thinking and the changing of those paradigms through those disruptive thinkers. So for those of the Bear family that don't know, do you want to give us a little bit of background history on who you are and where you've come from?
Okay. Briefly, I was a research scientist and a professor in medical schools, primarily University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and later at Stanford University School of Medicine. My work was on cloning stem cells. Everybody, of course, has heard of stem cells, but my research on stem cells was 50 years ago. There were only a handful of us in the whole world 50 years ago who even knew what the heck a stem cell was. And I had the unique opportunity of not just knowing stem cells, but actually cloning stem cells way in advance of anybody else really knowing about what they were doing. Just to give people an insight, stem cells are embryonic cells that are found in our body. Reason why is very simple. A human body is not a single thing. It's made out of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. The human, by strict definition, is a community of cells. So the living element are the cells, and Bruce right here is an example of a community. Tito, example of a community. And I go, well, so what? Well, 50 trillion cells make up our body, but every day, normal attrition, hundreds of billions of cells die every day. That's normal. Skin cells are sloughing off. The entire gut lining is replaced every 3 days. And the point about it is this, is like, well, if you're losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, then obviously we must be making hundreds of billions of cells, otherwise we would die. So everybody out there who's alive should recognize that they have stem cells, because if you don't have stem cells, then you're not going to be alive after a short time. So stem cells are embryonic cells, and my research very simply was this. At the time we were teaching in medical school, the curriculum was called genetic determinism. The public is still involved with that. That's the belief that your genes determine the character, not just your physical biology, but the behavior, emotions, what you can do in your life. So what we were teaching is people were victims of their heredity. You got cancer in your family, well, you can expect that. You got heart disease, you can expect that. It was all attributed to genes. My research revealed that was completely false understanding, that the cells are not controlled by the genes, they're controlled by the environment in which they live. That was what my research was all about. Relevance is very important, and that is simply this. if the environment controls the cells, then we're the one that controls the environment. So rather than be a victim of our genes, we are a master of our biology if we understand how our thoughts and perceptions and attitudes are actually turned into chemistry, which then goes to the genes and controls our biology. It's a new science. It's called epigenetics. It's a revolution, as I said. Old belief, I'm a victim of my genes, whatever they have, I'm going to express. New understanding is I'm the creator of my biology based on how I respond to the world. And if I change my response to the world, I change my biology, not in years, but in hours. So all of a sudden it says, oh my God, belief formerly, I'm a victim, whatever's running my family, I can expect to get something like that. New belief is I am a master. I can change my biology just through my thinking and my attitudes to life. And this is very, very powerful because it says I'm a creator of my life, not a victim of my genes. And once you understand this, it is the most wonderful experience in the world because guess what? You don't need doctors, you don't need to get sick, and you can create a wonderful experience. We've been programmed to believe we're frail, vulnerable creatures. That is completely the most false statement that ever existed. We can walk across fire. There are things that humans can do that show how powerful we are, but we look in disbelief because we're so expecting us to be frail victims. And it turns out, no. Own your consciousness. Own that you've been programmed. And that if you change the program, you change your life, and you can create heaven on earth. And that's a conclusion without all the science.
Yeah, it's a profound and inspiring idea, too, to recognize how much control we have, not just in our interpretation of how we feel, but the actual control of the cellular level through the environment that we choose, what we eat, but the conscious behavior as well. So you said you had worked at Stanford for a bunch of years. Can you tell us a little bit about how the education system has kind of defined and pushed these ideas out into the fringe instead of being the norm?
Oh, absolutely. The whole idea is this. How can you make money if you're in a corporation? A corporation is, well, you've got to sell an idea and make a profit off of it. You can't make a lot of money if you sell the idea we're all powerful, we don't need anything, which is the truth. But you sell the idea that we are victims, that health is out of our reach, health is out of our control. And if people believe that, remember, our belief is turned into chemistry. Henry Ford said it. He said, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're right. And basically says, oh my God, so if you program me to be a victim, then I become a victim. And then you can sell me all the drugs and all that stuff. I just read today that only 39% of Americans can afford a $1,000 health bill at this moment. Meaning 61% of Americans, if they went to the doctor, just an emergency room, which is $1,000, if they just went to the emergency room once, they'd be in debt. And now we find that the 60% of the bankruptcies in the United States are due to health bills. And so why is that relevant? I say, well, if I convince you that you're vulnerable and that you can get sick, and because it's mind over matter, then I can convince you to be that victim, and then I can convince you to buy the drugs that we actually don't need. And so it's a manipulation of consciousness to teach people that who do you think you are, that kind of thing. And once people start, oh, I'm nobody, I go, okay, now you're not. And the moment that happens, you are a customer for whatever I'm trying to sell, which is healthcare. If you give me the soapbox for 1/2 more minute, I really want to mention something, and that goes like this. It's like healthcare is based on being compassionate. A human, the word human, humane, humanity, the root is the word compassion. And I say, well, is our medical profession humane? I said, well, are they compassionate? And I go, well, no. I go, why not? I said, because it's a profit motive industry. I go, yeah, but how do you make a profit? And the answer is then simple. It says, you charge more than the services you provide. So I go, wait a minute, let's stand back. Here's the medical profession, supposed to be compassionate to help people. And I say, Well, they're not compassionate. The person's sick, and now that they're sick, they're kicking them to get all this extra money out of them. And I go, then there is a truth, and this is the beautiful part. It's just truth on definition. The medical practice in the United States is inhumane. And that's a fact of life. It's inhumane. Charging sick people, they're already sick. Now you're going to punish them by charging them more money for being sick. I'm upset about that, and I want people to understand we don't need them if you get your head on right, and that's my reason for being most of the time.
Yeah, and you're right. Not only are they, if they get sick, but there's that added stress of the debt that they might go into. Again, further decreasing that in conscious environment of their bodies and selves, likely making them even sicker or having a harder time to progress in healing. So
Absolutely, and that's why it's inhumane. It's like you're not helping people; you're getting them sick. Just thinking about the fact is, God, what happened if I get sick? I'll lose my job. I'll lose my money. As I said, 60% of bankruptcies, people lose their house and their life savings because they got a disease. It's like, wow. It's time for America to wake up and start recognizing as healthcare is a social issue. And as much as we have education as a social issue, healthcare should be the same. As a matter of fact, I think we're the only major country in the world that does not have social health care. We're the exception of the entire world in the United States.
not the rule. So with this disruptive thought that you were going through, as you realized that the actual genetics weren't determining what the cell would become, what type of headwinds did you hit in trying to share that information with your peers and the scientific community?
Well, I was like the crazy person on the block when I kept showing my colleagues this work, and it showed that what I did, you see, when you clone a cell, you put one cell in a petri dish all by itself, and then it divides every 10 or 12 hours. So you start with one cell, then 2, 4, 8, 16, doubling. After a week, 30,000 genetically identical cells because they all came from one parent. So I have 30,000 genetically identical cells. I split them into 3 petri dishes. And I changed the culture medium composition. Now, culture medium, this is the cool part because this is the connection part. Culture medium is the laboratory version of blood. So if I grow human cells, I make culture medium based on the composition of human blood. If I grow mouse cells, I look at mouse blood composition and make culture medium based on that. Since I'm making in the lab, I can change some of the composition. So I have 3 dishes with genetically identical cells, but I have 3 slightly chemically different versions of culture medium. And in one dish, in version A, the cells form muscle. In another dish with a different version of culture medium, the cells form bone. A third dish with a different culture medium, the cells form fat cells. I say, well, what's the relevance? I say, they were all genetically identical. So the fate of muscle, bone, fat was not determined by the genetics. It was determined by the composition of the culture medium, the environment that the cells live in. Change the environment, change the genetics. And I go, well, wow, after teaching students that genes control life and then go in the laboratory and find genes didn't control this at all, I was the weirdo in the entire world. And because everyone was looking for the gold mine in DNA, we're going to all do DNA research, and still the prevalent research, it was like they ignored this. As a matter of fact, I just looked at my stuff as, well, that's artifact. But that was 30 years almost before the evolution of what we today call epigenetics. Genetics is what everybody out there learned. Genes control life. That's genetics. Epigenetics, of course, sounds the same except for the epi, but the epi is the revolution. Epi means above. So old story, most people program with old story, genetic control, genes control the character of your life. The new story is epigenetic control. Epi means above. So now what does that literally say? Control above the genes. It's like, control above the genes? Yeah, environment. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we've been always talking about genes thing, but now the vision is to look at how the environment is controlling the genes. Well, I saw that 50 years ago. And the relevance about that is very critical because here's the connection now. You say, well, Bruce, that's nice research in a laboratory. You put cells in a plastic dish. You change the composition of the culture medium and the cell fate is changed. I go, yeah, but here's the point. as I mentioned, a human is not a single entity. A human is made out of 50 trillion cells. So, in a humorous aspect, a human is a skin-covered petri dish with 50 trillion cells inside. I go, yeah, but there's culture medium, the original culture medium. I go, what's that? I said, blood. That's what we make culture medium from. So I say, oh, so it doesn't make a difference if the cell is in a skin dish or a plastic dish. The reason is it's the culture medium that determines the fate. So in the skin dish, natural blood. In the culture dish, synthetic blood. But I say, why is it relevant? The chemical composition of your blood controls your genetics. I go, yeah, that's the new stuff. But then here comes the question, well, what controls the chemical composition of your blood? I go, that's the breakthrough. The breakthrough is simply this. The mind entertains a picture. The brain translates the picture into complementary chemistry. Point. If I open my eyes and someone I love is there, my brain interprets love and love's meaning. I say, oh, all this beautiful chemistry is released by the brain into the blood. Dopamine, the pleasure of being loved, is dopamine. Oxytocin is the bonding chemistry that bonds you to your loved one. Vasopressin is released when you're in love. That makes you more attractive to your partner. And most importantly, growth hormone is released when you're in love. I say, why is that relevant? Growth hormone, the name is already there. As soon as you're in love, you're enhancing the culture medium to support the growth of your biology. And that's why when people are in love, other people go, oh, look, you see how in love they are? See how they glow? I go, what's the glow? I said, the secretion of growth hormone in the presence of the vision of love. And then I say, the same person opens their eyes, but instead of seeing someone they love, they see something that scares them. I say, is that love chemistry coming out? I go, absolutely not. The moment fear is there, a different chemistry is released by the brain and the blood. Stress hormones, things that affect the immune system in a very negative way. This is the experience of fear. So I say, oh, if I'm thinking love, I have a blood chemistry that gives me health. If I'm experiencing fear, I have a blood chemistry that actually shuts down my health as it puts me into protection. And what's the point? Well, the cells, the fate of the cells wasn't determined by the genes that I have. It was determined by my interpretation. And all of a sudden it says, well, what's the interpretation? I said, well, we've been programmed. The movie The Matrix is science fiction, but the truth is, every human has been programmed. It's a necessary part of our development. In the first 7 years, an infant learns about programming by observing the mother, the father, and the family so that they can download the behaviors to be part of a family, part of a community. An infant has to learn all this, thousands of rules. I go, how do they learn? First 7 years of your life is download. The brain is operating below consciousness. A child doesn't even experience or express consciousness as a biological activity until around age 7. So the first 7 years is programming. Now, the Jesuits, they've known this for 400 years. The Jesuits have said for 400 years, and nobody really understood what they were saying, is give me a child until it is 7, and I will show you the man. What they knew for 400 years is whatever programming the child gets in the first 7 years, that programming will determine the character of that individual's life for the rest of their life. So it's like, oh my God, everyone is a matrix. We've all been programmed for 7 years. And the significance about that is we've been in a program. The program is 70% disempowering, self-sabotaging, limiting behavior, like who do you think you are, or you can't do this, or all these kinds of rules, which become biology because of the chemistry. And then comes the interesting part. I say, in the movie The Matrix, there's an opportunity to take a red pill, and the red pill gets you out of the program. So here's the cool thing. Most everybody has taken the red pill at one time or another, didn't even know it, but the consequences were profound. I said, an example of taking the red pill? Falling in love. I go, what do you mean? I say, well, people have that first time they have a big love come into their life, hours, their whole world changes. Within 24 hours, their life could suck every day until they met this person. And the day they meet this person, they start to fall in love. And I say, what about the next day? I say, oh, heaven on earth, joy, love, beauty, everything comes into the life of these people that are on what are called the honeymoon. The honeymoon is an expression of what? Heaven on earth. I go, was that an accident? I go, no, because we now know biologically what the consequence was. And that is this: falling in love stops the program. And the moment the program is stopped and we're free to create, what did we create after falling in love? Was a period where life was beautiful, healthy, happy, love, and everything. I said, this was not an accident. Your life sucked every day for 20 years, and then overnight you meet this person, and the next day you have heaven on earth. I go, this is the coolest thing. That is what is called taking the red pill, because in biology we find that the program that we've been living by, as the Jesuits said, for 7 years of programming, that programming doesn't play when you fall in love like that. I go, well, what happened when you stopped playing the program? You took a blah, blah, blah life and turned it into heaven on earth. That was not an accident. That was a personal creation. What was the point? You could do this every day of your life. But the honeymoon fades and we're back into the program and life goes right back the way it was before we had that wonderful honeymoon. So it was just an example to people to know, A, you've been programmed. B, most people had an experience of stopping the program for a period of time. And in that period where they stopped the program, they experienced heaven on earth. And the point is simple. You could have that any day as long as you stop playing the program. That was always available to us. So that's what we need to wake up to and say, have you ever had that experience of falling in love? Did you remember how exciting life was and how wonderful everything was? And I go, not an accident, not a coincidence. This was the consequence of what happens if you stop playing the damn program we got when we were 0 to 7 years of age. And once you realize that, it's like, well, does that have to be that little short honeymoon period? I go, no. You can have a honeymoon every day of your life for as long as you live on this planet. It's the damn program you got to watch out for.
Absolutely. It's astounding because it feels so simple the way you've explained it, that the conscious reflection of the interpretation of these fear or the things that we see, especially from a child's viewpoint. We go into those fight, flight, or freeze modes by instinct. We grew up in an environment that was also dangerous sometimes, so they have an important value in our interpretation. Do you think that the environment of children that go through abusive childhoods or even just negatively influencing will continue to go that way? And is there any way that these patterns can be broken aside from just love? Are there personal mantras or something like this that you think are effective as well? I guess to go a little bit more fringe.
Oh, now listen, they're wonderful. Once you know that it's a program, that is the key to getting out of a program. If you don't know you've been programmed, you've just been living in the program, it just looked like natural life around you. Now I say, we have a program, and I say, well, how do we get out of it? I say, one of the natural ways of getting out, as we mentioned, was falling in love, because falling in love keeps your mind from wandering. You see, when we're thinking, I say, let's say, what are you doing on Saturday? If you try to answer that question, I say, is it in front of you right now? Is it on the desk? Is it on the wall? Where's the answer? The answer is not outside. The answer is inside. So I say, oh, you have to think of an answer. I say, yes. The moment you're thinking, your conscious, which is controlling your biology, stops controlling the biology. It's an inside job. Thinking is inside. So I go, well, what does that mean? And I say, the moment I'm thinking, if I'm walking down the street and I have a thought, doesn't mean I freeze until the thought's over. I say, the moment I'm thinking, my conscious mind lets go of the wheel, goes inside to look for an answer, but we have autopilot, and that's where the issue comes from. The autopilot is the program. So it says, well, how much of our life are we spending in thought, which means how much of our life is actually now being run by the program? Because when you're in thought, you're not running the program. 95% of our life is coming from program, because that's how much time Our mind is thinking about tomorrow, last week, what's on my shopping list, where am I going? All these thoughts, when we're having a thought, means consciousness is not controlling the vehicle because it's thinking, and then we step into the automatic behavior. So, A, how can I get out of the program? And the answer is stop thinking. That, in Buddhist terms, is called being mindful. Mindfulness is an exercise. Being mindful means if I stop thinking, then I'm still holding onto the wheel and driving where I want to go. But the moment I'm thinking, I let go of the wheel, and autopilot is subconscious, and that's where the programs are. So one thing is stop thinking. The best thing is this: rewrite the program. And that's where it comes in. It's really cool because most people cannot see the program. For 30 years almost, I've been lecturing on the topic. I give the same story. You think after 30 years I would give up on telling this story in the lecture, but the fact is it's a story that is so profoundly personal and people get it. And here's the story. During our growing up period somewhere, we had a friend, and we were very close to our friend. We knew our friend's behavior very well, and we happened to know our friend's parent. And one day we see our friend has the same behavior as their parent. And of course, we got to really let my friend know about this. So I say, "Hey, Bill, you're just like your dad." And then back from Bill. The moment Bill hears that, he goes, "How can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad." And most people laugh because they have that experience. I say, that is the most profound story, and that's why I've been saying it for 30 years, and that is this. Everybody else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. It's only Bill who can't see it. I said, why? I said, because he's thinking, he's not paying attention, the behavior is coming out automatically, so he's not seeing the behavior, but everybody else is. And since most of that behavior is limiting, self-sabotaging, and disempowering, then Bill is not living up to his potential. Bill is living to the program. And I say, why is it relevant? And here's the most important part of that, and it is every one of us is Bill. Every one of us, every day, is playing 95% of our life from programs that we got from our parents, our siblings, and our community, and we don't see it. And I say, relevance? Well, if 70% of the programs are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and we're playing them 95% of the time, do the math, and you realize, how come our life doesn't run the way we want it to run? And the answer is because it's running the way the program was designed to run. And since most of the programming is negative, then, like Bill, we are sabotaging ourselves all day long, and we're the only ones that don't see it. And so let me just help people with this very quickly, because here's the significance, and that is this. The program plays, you can't see it. The program you receive from actually before birth, the last trimester of pregnancy, was already neurological programming. A child, if you play music to a child that's in the womb, when the child is born and you play that music, the child will pay attention immediately because it learned that. So in other words, even a fetus is learning. So behavior starts as programming in utero and in the first 7 years. So I say, okay, so what program did you get when you were 1? I have no idea. I wasn't there, really. Okay. What program did you get when you were 0? Programming, it still works the same. And so I say, okay, what's the point? And I say, you were not there consciously when the program was occurring. So it's very difficult to go into your own mind and say, what's my program? And so I'm going to help people right now. Here's the what is my programming? Because I wasn't conscious when it was. And here's the beautiful part. 90% the program. And the relevance about that is simply this. Your life is a printout of your program. So when you look at your life, I'm going to tell you very simply, the things that you like that come into your life, oh, I love that, because you have a program to let them come in. But here's the one people should listen to. The things that we work hard on to make happen, the things we struggle over because we want something, we're working very hard, putting a lot of effort into it, sweating, I'm going to make this happen, I'm working to make it happen. I go, why are you working so hard? And the answer, and here's the fun answer, whatever you have to struggle to make real is because your program doesn't support that. And that's why you're working extra hard. You're working against yourself. And so All you have to do is look at your life and go, what is it that I want that I'm not getting, and yet I'm working on getting? And I'm going to tell you right there, that's because whatever your destination is, your subconscious program will not support that. So all of a sudden, I can tell you what your program is by looking at your life right now and saying, whatever you're trying to create and it's not working, is inevitably you have a program that doesn't support that. So voila, just save thousands of dollars for people. You don't have to go to a shrink to find out your program. Your program is your life. And once you understand that, then you can say, well, what is it you want to change? Now the answer is clear. Whatever I've been trying to get, that's what I want. So you can put that program into the subconscious. And I go, well, why is that relevant? And here's the fun part. Once the program is part of the subconscious of something you want, you never have to think about it. Because you could go mindless. You could go, take your conscious mind and daydream all day. And I say, yeah, but when you're daydreaming, your subconscious is running the show. And if your subconscious has your destination that you want, without you even thinking about it, your subconscious will take you there. So the cool part is, if you understand which programs you want to change, go back into the subconscious, rewrite the program, then that means without even thinking, you will always go to your destination without any effort involved. Sounds like magic? Well, it is, but it's magic that we can control.
That's a brilliant thought, and feels very nice as well. I think again, for me, there's a lot of negativity in the, just seeing the general society a few years before. As an entrepreneur now, being a disruptive person when I was younger in class, having dropped out of school, I've been extremely inspired by other disruptive thinkers. So another question that I had for you was, if you were while you were working on something that was considered fringe and kind of against the norm, how did you go about getting grants? What kind of companies were funding your research, and how did that this kind of abstract thinking end up being supportive for your destination?
Subterfuge. Basically, I was getting grants from the National Institute of Health and from the Muscular Dystrophy Association of America to work on muscular dystrophy, which was cloning my cells. So in one part of my research, of course, I'm looking at the nature of muscular dystrophy and the pathologies and all that. But in the same cultures that I'm using for that research, I could also just change the culture medium and see the research that I ended up talking about. So I was doing it without them really knowing that my emphasis started to move over, and it wasn't so much focusing on the muscular dystrophy part, it was really focusing on the environment part. I published these papers. It was repeated research over and over again. My colleagues didn't share this at all because they were thinking genes control life, and whatever my research is artifact. And there was a point where I realized I was being so marginalized by my peers. Like, oh, Bruce, you're working on something silly and it's not real because we all know genes control stuff. There was a point that I just woke up one day and said, I can't do this anymore. I walked out of the university. I had tenure. I could have stayed there for my entire life, as a professor. But I woke up and said, why do I want to be in here and keep fighting against something that I know is real and that they doubt? And more importantly, and this is, okay, bottom line, when I first understood the nature of how thought was controlling genetics, I couldn't wait to get people into a room and say, listen, let me explain to you about this idea. Why? Because this is the most powerful thing in the world. You can create the most beautiful life in the world. And that's what I tried to get people in the room. And it was interesting because when I first started doing that, and I get in the room and I tell people, well, you can create this most wonderful life. And then they'd look at me and go, Lipton, your life doesn't look that good. How to do this. So it had no value what I was saying, because they looked at me and said, well, if your idea is so good, why isn't your life better? Until it hit me and said, oh my God, I am not walking my talk. My talk from just mind, my information did not become a program in my subconscious mind. So 95% of the day I'm living my old life, and 5% of the day is like, oh, a great new idea about everything, but 5% didn't change my life. When I rewrote the program and all of a sudden realized, oh my God, 100% of my life I'm controlling. And then the reality was simply this: I would not step backwards from my belief system because now it was a practical experience in my life. And that's why I walked out of the university, because I thought, I'm all this. Why? Because my life is 100% different by using this information. And I left by producing a show, found a musician who became famous in the States after that. But I stepped out of science and into rock and roll, and I'm not a rock and roll person. I lost my ass in rock and roll. Came back to science with an opportunity at Stanford University School of Medicine, where I had much the most leading people in the world to study this, came out with the exact same conclusion. And while they said, hey, look, Bruce, you can take this information that you're doing here in research at Stanford and go back into the university again, I said, nope, not going back in the university. Why? It's manipulated by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry sells drugs. If you could heal yourself without a drug, then what the heck is the pharmaceutical industry going to do? Because how are they going to make any money? So the pharmaceutical industry has put all of its money into the medical school to suppress any of this information of personal empowerment. Because if you become personally empowered, then for sure, as I can tell you, you no longer need pharmaceutical drugs, because pharmaceutical drugs are just replacing the chemistry you can make in your own head, but we're not making it in our head because of our programming. Change the programming, make that chemistry in your own body. You don't need pharmaceutical drugs. And so we have been manipulated in our belief system by advertising, by the multi-trillion dollars that the drug companies have to what? Disempower us, because if we become empowered, then the whole damn system will collapse. And so I'm out there saying, hey, screw the pharmaceutical company. But then they can't yell at me. They can't take away my grants. Why? I don't have any more grants. I don't care. Why? Once I understood the nature of programming, I have been living heaven on earth for the last 20 years. No healthcare problems, no doctors, enjoying every day of my life. And why would I take a step backwards? No, that'd be stupid. And so the idea is this: I'm a free agent. And so therefore, the pharmaceutical industry can't threaten me by, we're going to take away your research money. It's like, I don't need that. I'm good. So my opportunity is like what you are offering me is an opportunity to talk to the public, to say, you are so powerful, and yet your belief system has taken away your power. And if you change your belief system, you can have everything on this planet. Heaven on earth. Hence the book I wrote called The Honeymoon Effect, which is how come the honeymoon is so healthy, loving, expressive of all the wonderful things. And I go, it's because when you understand what the honeymoon is, it's taking your power back. And when you take your power back, you can create that way of life. And that's what it's all about.
That's beautiful, Bruce. I'm very, very grateful to hear all that as well, because it's, I'm a young man still growing through these changes from somewhat of an aggressive standpoint because of maybe my lack of understanding of society when I was younger. But seeing these disruptive thinkers, especially for me, it became part of the financial world with things like blockchain and Bitcoin. But this disruptive wave that I see happening now has pushed me further than I'd ever gone before, and I'm extremely grateful to share this with the Bear family. Is there a website we can point all of our members at to check out for you guys to see check out your books or any of your other material?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's brucelipton.com. There's a tremendous amount of free information on there, and in fact, there's a section under resources for belief change. And this is main issue is, okay, Bruce, I got you. I got a program. And the issue about that is, how do I change the program? And the answer is this: there's a technique to change it. It doesn't happen by accident. And And if you understand how to change it, then you have power. And if you don't understand how to change your programming, then you have frustration. That's the consequence of, I don't want this life and I want something different and it's not working. And I go, well, because you don't know how to change the program. And so this becomes the most important understanding is, A, what is my program? I say, oh, look at your life. That is your program. The things that you want and you have trouble getting, you want to change that program. You want to make that conclusion that you want the program in the subconscious mind. And the relevance about that, if the conclusion is to be healthy, wealthy, happy, loving, whatever it is, I say you can make that program. And when you put it in, the subconscious, and this is the like gets me so excited, is once the program is in the subconscious, you never have to think about it again. You don't have to even do any work anymore. Why? Once it's in, your life is running 95% of the time from the program without you even making an effort. So if you put the right program in, it's like, hey, things come to you in your life. Not an accident, but unconsciously you are taking the steps, creating the pathway to go to a program destination that you put into the subconscious. I want to be healthy. That's a program. I want to have great relationships. That's a program. I want to have a job where I can make money and feel supported. And I go, that's a program. And so once you understand it's a program, then you can be the programmer. But if you don't see it's a program, and as I said, like Bill, what do you mean I'm like my dad? Of course everyone can see that. Only Bill doesn't. Until we wake up to the fact that, oh my God, my limitations have not been imposed from the outside. I'm not a victim of the world. I'm a victim of my own program. And therefore, once you understand that, you are super empowered to change the program. But then to change the program, there are technologies to change the program, because the two minds, conscious mind, the one connected to our personal identity, our spirituality, who we are as individuals, is the creative mind. Conscious is, what do you want? It's imagination. And I say subconscious, there's no creativity. There's not anybody even in that mind. That's a machine. It's like a record playback machine. And I go, why is it relevant? I say, well, let's say you have a CD recorder and you put a CD in there and there's a program playing. You say, I don't like the programming. So I say, okay, talk to the CD player. Come on, CD player, change the program. I don't like this program, CD player. I said, you can talk to the CD player until you're blue in the face. It will never change the program because that's not how it does it. I go, you can say, I don't like my weight. I don't like this. I say, and what are you going to do about it? I say, well, I'm going to talk to myself, and I go, well, who are you talking to? He says, oh, I'm talking to the subconscious. I don't like these programs, subconscious. I go, oh, there's your problem. There's nobody in the subconscious. You might as well talk to the CD player and see how long it's going to take for it to change. It's like, it will never change. And that's where frustration kicks in. It's like, I can see what I don't want. I can tell myself what I don't want, and I still end up with what I don't want. And I go, because that's not how you change the subconscious program. And I go, oh, there's like a record button. If you push the record button, you can write a new program in minutes. But if you don't push the record button, you could talk to yourself for 50 years. It will never make a difference. There's a secret to how you engage the program. And if you don't understand how to do it, you will just observe yourself, go through the program for your whole life. As the Jesuit said, once you give me that first 7 years, that's the rest of your life. And yet you can go back and change that program. And once you change it, it's magic. It is the most, why? Effortless. Once the program is in there with your destination, the job is on the subconscious, a super intelligence beyond anything, to make sure it will find you or show you a pathway. Every time something comes up that's relevant to your destination, the subconscious will glom onto it and take you there without you even understanding, why am I doing this? Why am I here in this place? And oh, look who I just met. And I go, that wasn't an accident. Subconscious is already saying that you're going to meet here if you do it this way. And I go, why is it relevant? And the answer is, the chance is out of the game. The surety of what you want is the rule of the game. And you need to know how to change it. And there are just 3 ways to change the subconscious. The first way is hypnosis. That's what you did in the first 10 years. You did hypnosis without knowing it. Your brain was at a low vibration. When you put wires on a person's head, EEG, the frequency is called theta for a child until age 7. Theta is imagination. That's why children under 7 ride a broom. To them, it's not a broom. To them, it's a horse. There's a live horse. You can't say to that kid, that's not a horse. At that moment, theta is taking the broom and making imagination into a horse, okay? But theta is hypnosis. So for the first 7 years, the child downloads all of the required behaviors to be a functional part of a family and a community without effort. Meaning, child is like a video recorder. Everything it sees, boom, program, okay? At age 7, consciousness kicks in. And I say, what happens there? I say, oh, well, then programming of subconscious changes. At age 7, you want to program a subconscious? It's called repetition, habituation. You want to learn something? Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And at some point, it'll be downloaded. Repetition is a way of downloading. So that's why you want to ride a bicycle. You just don't get on a bicycle and take off. You have to practice and practice and practice. Drive a car, practice, practice, practice. Do the times table. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8. I say practice. Alphabet, A, B, C, practice. How many times did it take to go from A to Z without stopping? A lot. So phase 1 programming, theta, just observe it. At age 7, you want to change programming, repetition of creating a new program. I like it because the new terminology is kind of funny. It's called fake it till you make it. Meaning, you want to be happy? Then every day just say, I'm happy. I'm happy. Even if you're not, you just say, every day I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. I say, why? After a period of time, which is the habituation time, the subconscious will wake up by saying, I am happy. When the subconscious wakes up and says, I am happy, you will then automatically be happy without changes occur. So first 7 years, hypnosis. And at night, if you put earphones on when you're going to bed and play a program through the earphones, just as you are going to sleep, your brain of calm consciousness shifts into theta before you actually go to sleep. And the relevance is simply this. Right after your conscious mind starts to go to sleep, you're in theta. So whatever's going on in the earphones is bypassing consciousness and going straight into subconscious. So the relevance is every night when you go to bed, put a pair of earphones with a program that you want to have in your life. Love, wealth, health, whatever it is, play that program. Every night when you go to bed, understand the subconscious is taking in a new program. Another way of changing the program after age 7, as I showed, is repetition. What is it you want? Just keep repeating it, repeating it, repeating it. Even if you don't have it, repeat it. And the subconscious will pick up on that by repetition and make a new habit out of it. And then the most important one that I really want people to understand is there's a new kind of psychology called energy psychology. And using these modalities, and here's like magic, you can change a program in 5 or 10 minutes. A program that has been hobbling you your whole life, 5 or 10 minutes, it's a super learning exercise. And with super learning, I could take a belief, take a program and put it in as a new belief in about 5 or 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, it's like you can free up your life. And I say, as soon as you reprogram the negative things, I say, yeah, what do you need to reprogram? We said that. Look at your life. It's already playing. Find out which ones you want to change. And you can use these modalities, which are on my website, brucelipton.com. It's very simple. Under resources, there are these modalities. I highly recommend them because most of my life was reprogrammed using these processes that only take 5 or 10 minutes. And so you could go through your list of, I want this, I want that, I want this. I go, fine, 5 or 10 minutes on each belief. And you can rewrite them, walk away, and have a honeymoon experience, meaning not like love experience. A honeymoon experience is just heaven on earth. Honeymoon experience is everything's beautiful. The food's beautiful. The music's beautiful. Life is beautiful. I go, you could have that in minutes if you understand how to change it. And if you don't understand how to make that change, then life is very frustrating because you're going to try to, how am I going to change it? And I say, no, you can only change it by how the subconscious mind learns. And it only learns in these three ways. Hypnosis, which is every night put the earphones on, because as you go to sleep, you will be in theta. Repetition, fake it till you make it, repeating and repeating. And lastly, and to me the fast one, is energy psychology processes that allow you to put programs in as permanent new programs in about 10 minutes. It's like, we needed that miracle because we're facing a crisis on this planet that is due to our behavior, and the way out is to rewrite the behavior, which means subconscious reprogramming.
Absolutely brilliant, Bruce. I feel like we're great friends already. I really appreciated you sharing all these thoughts with us. Again, so inspiring and profound to know how much control we can have on a cellular level through the interpretation of the thoughts and how the fake it till you make it. It's like, okay, well, I'm happy, I'm in love. These are the things that I feel. As awkward as it might feel for someone going down those first few steps, I've been studying music my entire life, but once you grasp some of it, doing that thing or transitioning from one instrument to another is very, very easy to do. So I'm very grateful for you sharing your time. This is, for me, starting the Arcane Bear, I wanted to support brilliant conversations, disruptive thinking, and I'm being blessed with brilliant minds such as yourself. So remember, everyone, BruceLipton.com. Sorry?
Let me add this, because another example that the average person has experienced to recognize how powerful they are is called the placebo effect.
Yes.
The placebo effect is, I'm sick. The doctor says, this is the pill. This is the newest, highest technology pill. This is going to cure you. You believe it because the doctor is your professional. It says, this is the pill. You get well by taking the pill, and then you find out it was a sugar pill. The truth behind that, which we have to wake up to, is, well, then what healed you? Not the sugar pill. Your belief in the pill. You change your health with your belief. So a positive belief can heal you, and everyone talks about placebo. Yes, positive thinking creates health through placebo effect. And then I need to add this because this is the one that most people fail to understand. Well, yes, positive thinking can heal me. Well, what about negative thinking? I go, equally powerful, but in the wrong direction. A negative thought can cause every disease on this planet. A negative thought can kill you. As much as a positive thought can take you to health, a negative thought can kill you. And people don't realize, because most of our thoughts are negative. It's like, you're walking around with all these negative thoughts. I go, it's the same as the placebo, but in reverse. Your negative thought will cancel every one of your opportunities to go someplace by having a negative thought. And people have to recognize the negative thought is equally powerful in shaping your life as a positive thought, but it works in the opposite direction. But I just wanted to bring out placebo because that is the example of mind over matter. That is another example.
Yeah, and we know it does some very abstract things. You can cut people wide open with nothing but the placebo, with that mixture of hypnosis from the people we trust, and we see the kind of reminiscence of that too in some of the older religions. Those meditations and those programmings of mantras itself too. I think it's beautiful to see some of the parallels of the older traditions align with some of the more potent science that we have today. I'm so grateful for you sharing your time with us. Again, remember, give us those thumbs up. It helps other people later on down the stream find the information. It's BruceLipton.com. I will have those links below, and any of the other information that I grab from Bruce once I jump online, I will make sure are on these links. Remember to share the videos and then spread the good word of the Bear family. Bruce, thank you so much. I'm going to keep you online for just 1 second. I really appreciate it.
I just want to thank you, but I also want to thank our audience out there, because the power is in the individual, and that when we believe we've been victimized and we have no power, that becomes our reality. So listening to this story, if we can encourage a few of the listeners to recognize, wait, stop, take your power back, because when you take it back, you become the creator and not the victim. And so thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to your community, because any one of those people who says, okay, wait, I think I'm going to take my power back, is a person who is going to contribute to the evolution of our planet, because our evolution requires our personal empowerment to come back.
Absolutely, and with that in mind, viva la revolution.